Found out my close group of friends knew my GF was cheating on me. They told me a year after we broke up. What TF do I do? I haven't spoken to them in a week and feel so lost. It brought up a bunch of old feeling of betrayal and violation, but now it's just not about my ex, it's about the people in my life I thought I could trust the most. These are my childhood friends. We're all in college now but home. I know these people love me like family and I do too, and I want to forgive them. I just feel so lost. My dad knew my now ex-wife was stealing pills from him and never said a word to me until after I divorced her. He was afraid of my reaction and thought I would blame him for ending my marriage. You have to figure out their reason they didn't tell you. Was it hoes before brothers? Were they afraid of what your response would have been? Do they like her more than you? Find out what their reasoning was and judge if they had valid concerns to not tell you, then go from there. Having a friends group to lean on after a breakup is a good thing, so don't throw away a relationship that might not need to be tossed. Absolutely. Watch out for the overwhelming bias in this subreddit toward breaking up, leaving, divorcing, regardless of context. I don't have sufficient facts to give my opinion on ditching lifelong friends over this, but in post after post, I see the bias here. Some relationships, marriages, friendships are better off in the rearview mirror, but some are worth repairing, healing and working to make stronger if all parties are sincere. I would not tell my closest friends goodbye forever unless I was sure the relationships were irredeemable. I don't get the sense that is the case here. They may very well have seen you as fragile emotionally at the time they realized what was going on, and they may have been acting in a protective way. It's okay for them to have been wrong if their motives were pure and you talk it out. They do not love you like family. If they did, they would have told you as soon as they knew she was doing it. By not saying anything, they not only allowed her cheating to continue, they also withheld information that could be important to your health and safety because they had no way of knowing how safe she was being with the other fuck partners. I would straight up tell them that their betrayal hurts you more than her cheating did, that you no longer trust them to have your back and look out for your best interests, and that, at least for now, you need to not have them around. Then find new friends who will be honest and loyal to you and tell you the information you need to know instead of lying to you. I guess they weren't your real friends. If I knew my friend was getting cheated on, I would tell them about it. For your own self-respect, tell them we are no longer friends because you let me get cheated on by not telling me that my girlfriend was cheating. Goodbye. Do this over text. Two possibilities here. First, they just really didn't care about you. Or, second, they do care but got poisoned by a bad idea, like it's not my place to say anything. You can either say I want to get past this with my friends, in which case you have the hard conversations, or, you give it up as a lost cause. Sorry man. It could have also been a poisoned line of thought where they thought they were doing the right thing by protecting Op from relapsing. Sometimes decisions are tough to make, and they made the wrong one, but that still doesn't mean they didn't care necessarily. It's up to Op whether he feels like he can forgive them if that's what he wants to do. What TF do I do? Get new friends? Frown. My husband says that he supports my goals but huffs and puffs when I have to work late or on the weekend, especially when it interferes with him playing video games. We are both young, in our mid-20s, which is kind of the period in our lives where we need to hustle while we still have that energy. With us especially. My husband has spent 2 years in his building his career at a job that he was able to get right out of school. He had the opportunity to begin his career before me as we're an international couple, set our sights on a specific city in his country, and I supported him, by being with him, while he was getting started. I couldn't work because I didn't have a visa and was only able to do some remote freelance and work along with some work travel opportunities, but even then that isn't a foundation like starting with a company. I spent the last year wrapped up in the visa process and was back and forth between both countries. Now, we're living in his parents' basement due to COVID and there being no point in our being in the city. I also don't have a job yet. I also have to finish some aspects of my degree and have chosen chosen very rigorous but very valuable courses to take at this time. Courses that will vastly increase my qualifications. Basically, I'm extremely busy. My husband and I currently have our home office and desks set up in a room in his parents' home. This is the only option we have. The work that I'm doing requires serious focus and no distraction. There's also a lot of it on top of the things that I have to do during the day, some freelance gigs, etc. Often I find myself working into the evening on Fridays and during the weekend days as well on my class. My husband gets really huffy about this because it means that he can't play video games and talk to his friends at his desk while I'm working on my course. No, not because he doesn't get to hang out with me. The thing is that there are a ton of other monitors and TVs to choose from throughout the house, but no other space for me to do my work. It isn't that he can't play video games with his friends on the weekends, it's that he sometimes can't play them at his desk and has to take his console to another room. Big deal. He knows how stressed I've been about my situation, trying to get on my feet in a new country in the middle of a pandemic from his parents' basement. He's supportive with his words when I speak to him about my stress and fears, and everything that I need to get done, but when it actually comes to my working on them, this course for instance, he doesn't recognize those moments as the real ones that he actually needs to support, by graciously moving his console to a different room. It leaves me feeling like he doesn't actually take me and what I'm doing seriously. Support isn't just about being encouraging and lending an ear and advice when I'm just talking about it. Support is, without my having to mention it or ask, moving to another room to talk to friends and play games, without acting annoyed, and maybe even saying something nice on the way out. I just had a little falling out with him over this, but I don't know if he really got the picture. His response was, "But if the roles were reversed you wouldn't be having any of it." No, that is not true at all. If he had an extra class, or an extra job, on top of all of his other SHT that he had to do during the day and was working late nights or on the weekends, even though that wasn't 100% his first choice of what he wanted to be doing, but because it would benefit him, and ultimately us, later down the road, I would absolutely not complain if I had to take my gaming console to another room if that's what it meant to effing support him. Should I bring this up again tonight, or should I wait until the next time that it happens? How should I illustrate this situation better so that he can take a look at it from a bird's eye perspective? This is what you need to realize. Words are cheap. Never listen to what people say. Watch what they do. Actions always speak louder than words. So to compare, when I had nowhere to do my schoolwork, my husband, who is a gamer and at his desk almost the entire day, would give up his desk for me to use. When I finally got a desk, he gave up his chair when my chair was too uncomfortable, even removing the armrests because they were too high for me. He did all of this without me even asking him. I understand your husband's frustration in having to move to a less favorable gaming location, and I understand the frustration that being in small spaces bring. But from your side of the story it sounds like he is being pretty selfish. Changing the topic from what he is doing to what he thinks you would do, making you have to defend yourself against your imaginary actions, is a really manipulative tactic. When you discuss this again, make sure you focus on what is actually happening. The roles aren't reversed. Do you think your actions now are appropriate or supportive? Could do some hand-holding and explicitly tell him what you need for support, or you could tell him to permanently take his console somewhere else so that is a work-focused room. Your husband seems to have been very lucky with the opportunities he's had in life. You haven't had those. You've had to move, you've had to take freelance jobs, you've had to work all hours. Does he respect everything you're doing for him and the relationship? Does he care about your goals and aspirations? I really don't think you're asking for that much, which makes this difficult. I wish there was something to do besides keep trying to communicate, and remembering this when you decide if your life plans will involve someone who treats you inconsiderately. Yes, you're right. It looks like he's learned the right things to say about supporting you but isn't willing to do very much. You need to work out whether the problem is living in his parents' basement, something which would stress the strongest marriage, or whether he's just a lazy and selfish person. If the former, you might have to find a place of your own as soon as possible and just put up with it until then. Alternatively, if he's shown who he is, then it's very unlikely he'll change. You won't be able to make him realize. How do I, 26F, talk to my husband, 35M, that sometimes the comments he makes about my niece, 17F, make me feel uncomfortable? My sister, 35F, has a 17-year-old daughter S. My sister works a lot, and she doesn't like leaving her daughter home alone when she works overnights Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, so S stays over our house those nights. This has been happening for years, and because of this my husband and I are very close to S. We take her to all of her school functions and practices that happen on the weekends, sometimes we go on weekend trips, etc. My husband and I don't have any kids of our own yet, but S is very much like a surrogate daughter. She even calls me her part-time mom. S's father left when she was very young, so my husband, 36M, has become a kind of surrogate father to her. However, there are some things he says to her that make me uncomfortable. For example, last night S was going to a dinner with some of her friends and she was wearing a form-fitting dress, and after we said how great she looked, he made a comment about how she wouldn't have been able to fill it out last year and she really grew into it. He also oftentimes tells her she should wear her hair down and that he prefers it that way, but not just when she's going out with her friends or something, when she's just hanging out around the house. I don't think anything weird or strange is going on. My husband has literally known my niece since she was 10, so I'm not jealous or worried or anything like that. I just think he's so used to saying nice things to her and he doesn't realize as she gets older he needs to not make comments on her body, not dictate how she should wear her hair, etc. But I don't know how to approach this situation without making it sound like I'm accusing him of something. Sorry about formatting, and if I left anything out, I feel like I'm forgetting things, but I'm on mobile. I don't think anything weird or strange is going on. I think that's a generous reading of the situation, but I'm willing to roll with it. This merits a direct conversation. Pull your husband aside and explain why this is creepy. Use plain terms, no sugarcoating, because you want to be sure he gets the message. Edit because other people have raised these points and I think they're important. If husband met up when she was 19-20 and he was 30ish, that means he's into younger women, extending into teenage girl territory. I hereby revoke benefit of the doubt. If this is what he's saying when Op is around, I'd hate to know what he says when she isn't. It was uncool of him to make these comments about the niece when she was younger, but I think it's even worse now. Look, either he's making inappropriate comments about your underage niece's body and it makes you uncomfortable, or it isn't a problem and he's just being a surrogate father. You're posting on here because it's the former. And his other comments about how she should fashion her appearance to his preferences are also inappropriate. Some people might go as far to say that he's grooming your niece and that's why you feel some concern with his comments and behavior towards your niece. Would these really be the comments a father would have with his daughter? He also oftentimes tells her she should wear her hair down and that he prefers it that way. Not that it flatters her face or it looks great on her. He's stating his preference so she knows how to attract him. How she wouldn't have been able to fill it out last year and she really grew into it. I'm assuming that her bust filled out. Again, he could have been general about how it's flattering on her, but he's hinting at what body parts he thinks makes the dress look good. Yeah, no. Didn't have a dad, but aren't dads generally awkward about their daughters growing up? Not making comments about how their boobs are growing?